I want to make sure everybody knows who we are and why we're here. So, Trigby from Minneapolis is a longtime listener and first time caller. Look at there. As if. Exactly. Perfect. So, as we get started, I'm just going to roll in and do a nice soft intro so that we all have what we're up to together here. As a HubSpot user group, I just wanted to remind everyone, the goal of these is to build the community of HubSpot users and to make sure that you, as a HubSpotter, feel supported and connected to other people in the community. As everyone knows, HubSpot is a fantastic tool and incredibly easy to use, but there are always little things that it helps to have someone else to know how to do. And Kyle's going to be sharing a ton of those today with us. But there's more than 100 regional industry and skill product-based HubSpot user groups. So just go to, the easiest way I found is just to literally search HubSpot Hug and go through and find the hug that matches with your interests and skills. And of course, remember to stay tuned and registered. There are actually 3 HubSpot user groups represented today: Twin Cities, which is the lead hug today, Fractional Leadership, and the Manufacturing Midwest Hugs. So that's why we are here. I'm going to let Kyle introduce himself, but if you've been to Inbound and heard anyone speaking in the hallways, if you've been to HubSpot Academy at all, you've not missed Kyle, because he is one of the constant and funnest faces on the entire HubSpot ecosystem, and we couldn't be more happy to have Kyle here with us. We are the sponsors for today's event. BusyWeb is a growth marketing agency in Minneapolis, and we'd love to chat if you have specific HubSpot needs or questions, or just want to commiserate over a beer in Minnesota. Finally, we do have a couple of upcoming events. We list all of our upcoming hugs in all 3 of those hugs, as well as BusyWeb sponsored events. We have 2 BusyWeb events coming up at busyweb.com/events. Scale Smarter, use AI content remix to amplify your content production. And in April, less tricks, more clicks. Use smart design to turn website visitors into customers. We intentionally did that on the 2nd so that people didn't think that it was all tricks. All right. Well, I've done enough talking, and we've got 47 of us on now. So I think we're starting to hit critical velocity. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to our friend and one of my HubSpot heroes, Kyle Jepson. Kyle, how are you?
Good. Thanks so much, Dave. I'm excited to be here. Thanks everyone for joining. I know if you are in the neighborhood of BusyWeb, you are in the cold, and I really appreciate you braving it to sit down at your computer and log in. I'm glad everybody has power and is able to do that. My name is Kyle. I'm in Boston. I work at HubSpot, specifically HubSpot Academy. I am our evangelist. So my job is to use social media and webinars like this and live events to help HubSpot's existing customers get as much value as possible out of the tools they already have. I'm not looking to upsell anybody. I'm not looking to prospect. I just want you, HubSpot users, to be delighted that you get to be HubSpot users. I love this platform. I love the company. I have a lot of joy. I'm excited to share with you. Just this morning, just a couple hours ago, I'm going to drop this link in the chat. Something for you to look at a little later today. I made a video in the style of Mr. Rogers, teaching some HubSpot things. So if you could use some wholesomeness in your life, a little bit of heartwarming, it's not a parody, it is a tribute. Trying my best to be like Fred Rogers. Check that out after this call. So I am going to attempt to share my screen here, and we will see exactly how that goes. So this is...
Andrew asked how the musical is coming, Kyle.
Aha, yes. So don't get me off track, Andrew. I am working on a musical without Joan of Arc. It is a crazy journey that's been going on for a couple of years. I'm now to the point where I'm trying to pitch to investors. So if any of you know any eccentric billionaires who would like to fund an independent animation project, let me know. I have a pitch deck ready to go. So this is my desktop. This is my family. You will likely hear them in the background. There's no school this week in Boston. Instead of President's Day being a long weekend, we take a whole week off. So there's that. All right. Lots of windows here. Ready, set, go. Okay. So my assignment was to reprise one of my talks from Inbound this last year, Troubleshooting HubSpot. I'm actually going to do something slightly different. I am hoping to get to give this presentation again this year at Inbound. And so this is kind of beta testing the 2025 version. Certainly in the next 7 months, HubSpot will change more and there will be more things I need to add. But this is not the exact same deck I did this last September. I've added a few things. I've rearranged a few things that I was not satisfied with this last time. Are you seeing my deck? Is that I can't see you anymore.
We can see you and your deck. It works
great. Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and hop right in. This is a slide explaining who I am, but you already know this. You already even know that I'm working on a musical launch on Mark, so we can skip that one. Let's talk about troubleshooting HubSpot. The way I've organized this is there are these platform things. These apply to everyone. You have access to them, regardless of what sort of HubSpot subscription you have. And then there are some pro tools, reporting and workflows, not tied to any particular hub. And we'll talk about how to troubleshoot some of those things. And then there's enterprise level things, sandboxes and user impersonation. If you have an enterprise subscription, you can do these things. So that's the way we're organized. This will apply to every single one of you if you're a HubSpot user, admin type. These will apply to you if you have at least a professional level of HubSpot, and then these will apply to you if you have enterprise. So start with the platform stuff. Logs and histories. Hold on a minute. I have not organized my tabs sufficiently well. Let's see if I can. This is not working as expected. So the logs and histories. I'm sorry you can't see the slide right now. Are kind of your most fundamental beginning point for troubleshooting. A lot of your troubleshooting work in HubSpot is sort of like detective work, and you're gonna have to figure out what happened, right? Somebody said something's not looking the way it should. It moved, it changed, it disappeared, and you've now got to hunt it down and figure out what happened. And these logs and histories are the way you're going to get to do this. You're just seeing all these security goodies here. So much fun. All right, now we've got this. Let's do some full screen, and I will figure out how to get back to my slides when the time comes for that. Okay, so first is property history. So if we just go over to, all my examples here, I'll use contacts, but everything I'm about to show you work for any kind of object inside of HubSpot. None of this is unique to contacts. If we open this contact, who is not Kyle, this is not me, this is clearly someone else. Property history, there are a couple different ways you can go about this. So if someone is saying, the contact owner changed. Who changed it? Why did it change? I want to know what happened. You can come in here, and for any property, you can click on details to see how it has changed over time. So you can see dates that changed. All of these were changed manually by me in the CRM UI. But if it was updated by a workflow or overwritten by an import or whatever the case may be, you're going to see the source here with a timestamp. And so if there's a specific property in question and someone wants to know what happened, this is the way to do it. If you're dealing with a vaguer change than that, someone's just saying something's not right here, or why this something has changed, but they can't pinpoint an exact property, you can come up here to the actions drop down. And if you come to view property history, now you're going to see a table of every change that ever happened at any point to any of the properties on this record. This is a lot to filter through, but if you are really wanting to take a granular look and understand what's been happening with a record, this is a great place to come in and see. You can see what property was changed, what it was changed to, when the change was made, and what the source was. And you can even get a little bit of information here. So like HubSpot processing, you might be wondering, what the heck is HubSpot processing? Changed by internal HubSpot processing, cleanup actions, and possibly via a request made by an old deprecated HubSpot API key. Activities, you can get all this information, or you can see the user who did it if it was done manually. So it's just as you're trying to uncover what happened, what changed, what was the cause of this confusion, property history is really valuable. Something that is, I think, even more exciting is association history. This was introduced just a few years ago, and for me, this is really cool. If you come to view association history, you're going to be able to see when associations were created and when they were removed, and that's really powerful because if you have like a deal associated with a contact and then someone unassociates it, you can't tell by looking at the contact record or the deal record whether they were ever associated. If someone says this contact had a deal, where did it go? That's a very hard question to answer unless you come in here and you can see these are all created. I guess none were ever removed from this particular record. But if it was removed, or I think it says deleted and it'll be red, it'll tell you the object ID, the deal, the date, and the person who did it, or the API call that did it, so that you can undo anything that was accidentally removed. Again, just if you're just looking at the record here and someone says there used to be a deal but now it's gone, there's not a lot you can do. But you go into the association history and now you can really dig in and verify their claims, and if you need to, find the record and reassociate it. And then a couple of properties that are really helpful is merged IDs property. So this one is interesting. If you merge records, one of those record IDs gets retired, right? You choose one record as primary, you merge the other into it, and this one now doesn't really exist anymore. So if you're trying to hunt down a record and it seems to have disappeared, it may have been merged into another one, you can just add a column for, it's called merged record or merged contact IDs on the contacts. It would be merged company IDs on companies, etc. And you can see here, I haven't done a lot of merging in my portal, but this one was merged. Contact 56509 was merged into this Kyle Jepson record. And if you've done multiple merges with a record, this will be a comma delineated list. So if you have a contact ID and you're trying to track it down and it's 404ing or whatever, you can look at this list and see where it went if it disappeared. You could filter by this and hunt it down. The other thing I want to talk about is source properties, and here I'm going to figure out how to get my slides going again. Maybe we will see. Aha!
There you go.
Now can I slide? No, I don't know how to switch between. All right, well, we'll figure it out. So source properties. For a long time, there was this property called original source. It still exists. And it's really great for like traffic analytics if you're trying to understand traffic sources for marketing reporting purposes. But it wasn't great for the sort of troubleshooting things we're talking about in this session. Last year, or maybe the year before, we came out with this property called record source. And that is actually much better for this kind of work. Here's a new slide. This is where we're getting into the beta part of the presentation. I would welcome your feedback on whether there's a better way to present this. So original source is for traffic. Record source is for troubleshooting. Original source only has 9 options: organic search, paid search, email marketing, organic social, referrals, other campaigns, direct traffic, offline sources, and paid social. And because of this, you get a lot of offline sources, right? Anytime you import, anytime you manually create, anytime you're like BCCing from an email, there are lots of ways records get created that don't fall into these marketing buckets. And in those cases, original source is not really that helpful. A record source has 59 options. I recognize these are too small to see. I could zoom in, but there are too many of them to read. But if you just kind of glance through this gobbledygook of text, this is much better for if you're trying to track down where did this record come from. This is going to be much more specific, and it's going to give you a lot more to work with. So I really like record source. It's a So it's a pick list. You can filter and look at the ones you're interested in. I'll show you that in just a second if I can figure out how to get back over to Crow. But another thing to keep is original source is just on contacts and companies. Every record in HubSpot, contacts, companies, deals, tickets, if you have custom objects, if you're using the new library, courses, listings, appointments, services, all of them have this record source property. So you can see where those records are coming from, which is much better. And then original source gives you drill down 1 and drill down 2, which again, if you're if you're doing any sort of marketing reporting, I don't mean to cast aspersions at original source. It's a really useful property for what it was designed to do. But if you're doing this kind of admin work, troubleshooting, trying to figure out where a record came from, a record source is going to be better, and it has 3 detail properties. And I did some research on this, friends. It's a little embarrassing to tell you what I found. So record source detail 1 is awesome. If record source is like a form or an import or a workflow, detail 1 is going to give you the specific name of the import or the workflow or the form. If you ever want to make a list of records that were created by a particular form, by a particular workflow, by a particular import, you can just grab its name, put it into the filter for record source detail 1, and you'll get a list of them. It's fantastic. Record source detail 2, it's pretty niche. Clicking around in various portals I have access to, the only thing I was able to find that was populating record source detail 2 was a Shopify integration. And so like the record source would say integration. Detail 1 would say Shopify data sync. And detail 2 would say which Shopify store gave this, right? And so I suspect there are probably other integrations that use detail 2. Just knowing record source is an integration. If you have a lot of different integrations, it's not that helpful. Then detail 1 tells you the specific integration, but in a case like Shopify where you might have multiple layers of that integration, that's also not that helpful. So detail 2 is great. Detail 3, I think, is maybe mostly aspirational. It might be used by some integrations or something. I dug up the release notes when record source details 1, 2, and 3 were launched. And the note said, like, we hope detail 3 will be used for something someday, right? So like, all of my portals, detail 3 is always empty. I'd be really curious if you all dig into your HubSpot accounts and look at your contacts, companies, deals, tickets, whatever records you have. If detail 3 is ever populated, please hit me up on LinkedIn, send me a direct message. I would love on the inbound stage to be able to tell you to people what this property is for, but I suspect it's not being used very often. There might be 1 or 2 integrations out there that are really deep that are using it for something, but it's hard for me to kind of even imagine what level of granularity would require that. So that's the difference between original source and record source. And if I can figure out how to get to Chrome, all right, well, it's fine. Here we are. We're back in Chrome. Let me show you these real quick. So I've added columns for record source and detail 1 and detail 2 and detail 3. You can see record sources, things like the Documents app, meetings, mobile on Android, CRM UI, integration, right? And when it says integration, detail 1 tells me what integration. Square in this case, right? Square is one I use a lot in demos of data sync. Or down here, Zoom, right? The Zoom integration added some records. That's great. And then record source detail 2, I'm not getting anything. Maybe you will. There are definitely integrations that use it. Shopify is the only one I found so far. And then record source detail 3, I suspect will always be empty. So maybe just ignore that one. I don't know. But it's really, if we want to add some filters, the record source, as I mentioned, is a pick list. So if we go into record source, you can see all the different options here. If you're curious what sorts of record sources there are, this goes on and on. As I said, there are 59 of them. The detail properties are text properties. So filtering on those is a little trickier. But again, if there's a specific workflow or a specific form or a specific import, you want to see the records that it's created, just go grab its name, drop it in there, and that should work. So that's those. I think a lot of times, if you see a sudden spike in record creation and you're wondering, where did these come from? Or if you're just looking at your contacts and you're like, wow, I don't recognize any of these, record source is going to be the best way to figure out where they came from, why they're there. So that's the source properties. Bring back this. Let's talk about security a little bit. So audit logs are super helpful. And actually just yesterday, as I was preparing for this, practicing this presentation, there's some new stuff in there. I don't know when it got added. This is the nature of working at HubSpot, my friends. New stuff gets added all the time. So we're going to explore that together in the audit logs. And then Security Center has also been evolving gradually over the course of the last year or so. So really excited to show you those. So we will just get rid of that. And we'll go look at both of those. See, these are under your settings. Settings gear here takes you to your settings page. One thing I really like about it, fun fact about HubSpot, is it knows where you were, right? We were on the contacts page, so it takes us to the contact settings. That's a good guess, HubSpot, about where we want to go. Happens to be wrong in this case. So if we go to the audit log, my understanding is you will see slightly different things here depending on your subscription. I believe enterprise subscriptions get extra special log things here. But this audit log page is the best first place to go, just to keep track of who's doing what, right? Anything that is sort of sensitive, anything you as an admin should be aware of, is going to be listed here. Some of it, like people logging in, that's maybe not something you're concerned about, but exports are going to be here, updates to workflows, right? And you can filter these to the type of action it is, or the category. Actions, right? Are people creating? If you just want to see people deleting stuff, what have people been deleted? Wow, this Kyle Jepson, he's been deleting a lot of workflows. He's been deleting a bunch of emails. What's he up to, right? Like that's worth knowing. Or if there's just a particular user you're concerned about, or a particular team, what are they up to? And then you can filter this also for a particular date range. So that's when I demoed this at Inbound this year. That was all there was to demo. But look, we now have these like saved views. It looks kind of like an index page in the CRM. We have login history if we want to just see who's logging in. Security activity, right? This guy did an export. That's good to know about. Seems you can you can manage views, you can clone them, you can create new ones. I think that's a good thing to play around with. Depending on what your security needs and concerns and compliance requirements are, you could just create different saved views, and you could just come in and check them once a week or once a month or once a quarter or whatever is necessary for you. And instead of having to come in and put in all these filters manually and stuff, you could just have your tabs that you check through and make sure everything looks normal. I think that's great. The other thing that's been added is up here at the top, we have these different tabs. We have an Analyze tab. This one's pretty cool. This was here when I was hiking at Inbound. You can see total daily logins. This is there's lots of stuff happening here. Lots of zeros in my test portal, but yours will probably have actual things here. You'll be able to see how many people are logging in, how many things have been deleted, exported, imported. In general, you probably want exports to be pretty low, right? You may not want imports to be terribly high. But if you're seeing numbers here and you're not expecting to, you can jump to the details and see them. You can see the different kinds of activities that are happening. Lots of property value updates. That's not too concerning. Content updates, workflow updates, CRM object, right? You can see how your HubSpot instance is being used. And then over time, right? Here's a big spike. Wow, a whole lot of properties were updated a couple days ago. Maybe we should check into that. Maybe we should figure out what happened, right? User login trends. What time of day are people coming in? When are they working? What are they using? What time are they using HubSpot? And then just user activity by CRM object type. In mine, contacts is the most popular one. That may always be the case. But look, we've been doing some invoice stuff, some tasks, some companies. If you are just curious about the usage of HubSpot, right? You're paying for this system. Is it being used? How many people are using it? How much time every day are they using it? Which parts are they using? Which parts of it are they not using? These are all good things for you to know. You can make some decisions around renewal time, whether you keep the things that aren't being. And then this notifications tab, I think, is new. These settings used to be spread around to different places. If you wanted to get notified if there are multiple exports, or if you want to get notified when someone's admin permissions were removed, these were tucked away in different places. Now they're being brought into this one single place, and there are only two here. But I would recommend watching this space. I haven't heard anything to suggest a lot's going to happen here, but now that the real estate exists, my guess would be we're going to find more helpful notifications, either create new ones or gather in existing ones, so that you can just have them all here in one spot. So that's the audit log. Great place to kind of get an overview of everything that's happening. Then if we go to security, which is down here, the security center, that's not great, calls things to your attention. Whereas the audit log tells you everything that's happening, the security center is really all about highlighting things that we think you should maybe be aware of, right? And we give you a score of things that are healthy or not so healthy. So like I have 2 super admins. That's a good number of super admins. That's fine. If you have like 72 super admins, we'd probably flag that as red and say this is too much. You need to take away some permissions from some people. Users not enrolled in two-factor authentication. I have 4 of those. That needs review, right? And if I click this needs review button, it's actually going to show me the people who don't have it set up, and I can come in and I can send them an email asking them to set up two-factor authentication. I love that this is just right here on this page, right? It doesn't give me to-dos that I have to then go figure out how to do myself. I could just right here nudge people. Love it. Inactive users, I have 3. Apparently that's good. Inactive private apps, I have a couple of those. Maybe we should look at those, right? Why are these in here? Should we remove them? Should we turn them off? And here's just more information, right? Disabled password as login, set up single sign-on for your account. These are things you can do. And there are different categories here, right? It's highlighting a lot of stuff for me. I should audit this, but I feel like you as an admin, if you come into this page, if you've never been here before, just go check it out. See what kinds of things it's highlighting. See if any of it is concerning to you. You might decide, you know what, it's fine. We're not really using two-factor authentication. I don't care. That's up to you. But at least you are aware of the state of things, and HubSpot will highlight a bunch of stuff that you can do to improve the security of your account, which is an important thing. I think this is really helpful. This is included in all subscriptions. Even if you're just a free HubSpot user, you can come in and see this. Then this other tab here is settings and activities. And again, these settings used to be spread all over. Everybody knows, I think, we have a lot of settings in HubSpot. It can be very hard to find the thing you're looking for. We added a search bar at the top, but it's still difficult. We've pulled all the security-related settings together into one spot, which I think is super great. So you can set up portal login settings. You can set up single sign-on from here. You can choose what login methods are allowed here. Passkeys are super cool. I want to call this out. This is a recent addition. In the same way, you can use a fingerprint or a face scan on your phone or on your laptop to log into things. Yeah, you can use that to log into HubSpot, both on desktop and on our mobile app. Very secure, really great. Require two-factor authentication. You can control how aggressive HubSpot is in logging people out when they're inactive, right? I have it set to 1 day, which is maybe the default. I don't remember if I've changed this or not. You can get super aggressive, log them out after 15 minutes. If you're not doing your job, you're out of here, right? Or you can get pretty lax, 3 days. This is really a thing you just need to decide for yourself as your company. What are you comfortable with? But again, setting some controls here is a good security practice. Keep bad actors from getting into your stuff. Limit logins to allowed IPs is really great if everyone is working in offices and you're really concerned, like you do not want people accessing your HubSpot account when they're home or when they're traveling. This is probably for really security conscious industries. If you're working with like financial stuff or healthcare information or something, I don't know exactly where the dividing lines are, but if you want to do this, you just turn on, you can put in a list of all the IPs of your offices. And then people will only be able to log in from those IPs. If they have a good username and a password, or they're using the passkey or whatever, but they are on some other IP, HubSpot will not let them in. That is a very high level of security. It's available to you if you want it. And then account access. We should talk about this one. Certain HubSpot employees can access your account, can log in, poke around, look at things if this checkbox is checked. I am not one of them. I can never, under any circumstances, log into your HubSpot portal unless you create me as a user and give me a username and password. I can't. There's no like backdoor for me as a HubSpot Academy employee to come in. This is specifically for like support reps and customer success managers, right? The people you might get on the phone with and say, hey, I'm having trouble with HubSpot. Can you hop in and help? And they're like, yeah, let me take a look. Let me come in. Let me see oh yeah, I see what's going on. Let's adjust this over here, right? If you're uncomfortable with that, you can uncheck this box, and then no HubSpot employees will be able to access your account under any circumstances unless you create a user for them. In general, I recommend leaving this on. HubSpot has a lot of good practices and safeguards in place In general, if you're going to call into support and ask for help, it's really nice if the support rep can hop in and see what you're seeing and help you out that way. But if for any reason you're uncomfortable with that, if you would rather HubSpot employees were not, all you have to do is uncheck this box. No questions asked, no paperwork signed. No one can now access your account. If you're curious, you can export HubSpot employee access history. This will give you a spreadsheet, show you every time a HubSpot employee has ever logged into your account. If you see anything that is surprising to you, absolutely let us know. So doing our best to be transparent here about who has access to your account and your data. And then we have a link to the audit logs. There used to be activity logs here, but now everything's been consolidated in the audit logs. So that is the security stuff. Let's talk about users. Of course, the biggest security risk and the biggest troubleshooting, most of the problems you troubleshoot will be caused by people, right? There are a lot of user error, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of people clicking things they shouldn't have clicked maybe. And so controlling your users and managing their access is a really important preventative thing for you to do. But also a lot of the questions you'll get if you're an admin type person is, why can't I see this thing? Why can't I access that? Hey, my coworker can access and do this thing, but I can't. That's not fair. What's going on? We have a lot of tools to help you understand all of that. If we hop back into HubSpot here, we're gonna head over to users and teams, which is here under account management. And again, there are a lot of settings here, and I clicked them pretty quickly. If you're ever looking for something and you can't find it, there is this bar here. You can search for a setting, right, and find it faster. Every product team I've ever talked to is aware that the settings, there's a lot of them, but it's a little overwhelming. If you have feedback on how we can make it better, we're open to that. So here is the users page. Here you're going to see a list of all your users. If you're setting up users, kind of the tabs here will guide you through that process. Users, seats, in Sales Hub and Service Hub, there are features tied to paid seats, and that's where you can manage who gets a seat, who doesn't. You can organize users into teams, which is collections of users. You can set up permission sets, which controls what they have access to. And then presets is things like email signatures, homepage, that kind of stuff. But most of the troubleshooting things you're going to do are here on this first tab, this users tab. You come in, you see a list of your users. One thing that's really handy, if one person is saying, hey, this guy who sits next to me can access stuff I don't have access to. Why is that? You can check the boxes next to a couple of users, and you can click this compare access button. Now, there's this toggle switch here, and I think this is where the real magic is. If you just want to scroll through a list of the many, many, many permissions HubSpot has and squint and try to pick out the ones that are different, more power to you. That sounds miserable to me. But we have this hide similarity toggle switch so that now all you're seeing are the differences. So these two users have quite a few differences, right? There are lots of things that are different. But you can search, right? If someone is specifically saying, I don't know, how about tickets? He has access to tickets and I don't have access to tickets. You can come in here and see, oh yeah, this guy has view, edit, and delete access. This guy just has view access. And you might look at that and say, yeah, that's not fair. Cam here should have edit and delete access also. Or maybe you should say, good heavens, Andre should not be allowed to edit and delete tickets. Why did we do this? We got to take those away, right? But either way, you're going to be able to see what's going on and get some parity here. And there are lots of ways to filter through this. You can, if you want to turn on and off certain sections, if you're just interested in various parts, you can shorten this list in a few different ways. But comparing access, really great. That would be a hard thing to do manually. We've tried to make it very easy. Another thing that's really great is if someone says, I used to have access to this thing, but I lost it, right? You just took away Andre's edit and delete access, and now he's confused and upset. You can come in here. If you come to actions, you can view user permission history, and you can see all the different times this user's permissions were updated. So this is a user I've had since I created this portal when I got hired at HubSpot 10 years ago. And so I have, over the course of testing things, changed his permissions many, many times. And you can see all those things. Something that I think is really interesting is these automated changes. HubSpot is trying to get more and more granular with permissions all the time. And our general philosophy is when we introduce a new permission, by default, it's on for everyone. We don't want to accidentally take away access from someone who needs access to something. So if they had access to it and now we have a new permission route, we'll let them keep access to it. And so if you see this automated change, these are all new permissions that we recently introduced. And Andre has access to them because when we rolled them out, we just let him have access to it. If you want to go in and take them away now, you absolutely can. But anytime anyone is complaining that things have changed, their access has changed, you can come in here and see why that happened, when it changed. If you have multiple super admins in your portal, you might see, hey, super admin number 2 removed this access from this user last Thursday. You can now reach out to super admin number 2 and be like, hey, what's going on here? What was the rationale there? And they might have a really good reason. They might not. That's a discussion you can have. Great. There's no back button on this page. That's interesting. So we'll just hop back this way. So that is permission history. Oh, actually, I don't want to be here anymore anyway. Now let's talk about things you can do from the record level. This is a new direction HubSpot is moving in. I find it actually really exciting. So if we come into not Kyle again, and we come to the actions here, you can view record access, and this will tell you exactly who has access to this record, this particular record. If there's one record and you just want to know who has access to it, what level of access do they have, you can come in here, you can see it. It's going to highlight who the contact owner is. It's going to tell you other people who have access. And then if there are multiple owner properties, then you can see what those properties are and how this has changed over time. Contact owner, account executive, how success owner. I've created a lot of user properties. You can see all these things. So this is pretty great. If there's a dispute over who owns something, or you're wondering why are so many people touching this record, it seems like too much, you can come in here and see who has access and what level of access. View, edit, delete, and communicate access. All these people have that. Well, it looks like this guy has view, edit, delete, but not communicate. And so maybe that's a discrepancy you would want to iron out, right? So that's a cool thing. And then there's this new thing called shared access, which is really very interesting. So you can let's actually go to the index page, because you can do this in bulk if you want. So you have your permissions all set up, and they allow some people to access particular records, and they disallow other people from accessing those same records. But maybe at a certain point in your process, you want to give access to a particular person or a particular team to a record, right? So we can check the box next to one or next to several. We'll just do one. And there's this share button. And you come in here and you can share it with a particular user, or you can share it with a team. Now, this is very interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, we can select multiple people here. This is the only place in HubSpot where user property allows multiple selections. And I find that fascinating. I don't know whether this means other user properties will have this functionality in the future. I don't know. But this is great, right? If we want to share it with some people, we can do it. Similarly with teams. Teams is typically everywhere else in HubSpot, it's a read-only property, right? Just based on the user, a record is assigned to, the team automatically gets populated. But here, it's an editable property. And again, you can select multiple if you want. So we're going to share it with particular users and particular teams. And the thing that's really cool here is these are, in fact, properties. And so you can edit them with a workflow, for example. So if there is a stage in your process where, once the contact moves to being a customer, we want to give the customer success team access to their record or whatever the case may be. You can automate that, right? Enroll in a workflow when lifecycle stage is customer, and update the shared teams, for example, property to include the customer success or customer support team or onboarding team or delivery team or whoever it is, right?
Kyle, do you know what levels of is this?
I was afraid you were going to ask. I have some inkling in the back of my mind that the sharing, it may be an enterprise feature.
Okay.
The record access, I believe, is just everyone.
Okay.
but I will be honest. My intuitions on this are often very bad. My go-to source anytime I have questions about these kinds of things is the knowledge base. I'll just show you. So if we go to knowledge.hubspot.com, I bet, if we go to like record access, hopefully there's a page. Don't let me down. View and manage user access to a record. So this is professional and enterprise, apparently. So yeah, I would just say anytime you have a curiosity about that, look at the knowledge doc right up, it'll tell you. And I should set a New Year's resolution of being better at this. There's good feedback on my deck. I could add little tags to all these things, what level they are. Cool. And then the last thing I want to mention, should have been mentioned earlier. If we go back to the users team, one very basic thing, if you are an admin type person that people might ask you for is, can you reset my password? And the answer is yes. If you come into actions, there's just a reset password button, and it'll send a password reset email to them. So if someone forgets their password or whatever, you cannot ever see or access or change their password, but you can start that process for them. So I think that's the bulk of troubleshooting things you'll do in relation to users. Now let's talk about backups. This is a very exciting new area in HubSpot. And this is another one where access varies by tier. So I believe everyone has the ability to create backups, and I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. And restoring to a previous backup, I believe, is professional or enterprise. And then the newest thing is automatic backups, which I was finally a good boy and said enterprise only. So let me show you just what these things are, what we're talking about here. Backup and restore is under data management. I have no backups currently. But if I want to create a backup, what I can do is just click this create backup button. And what we're going to do is create what's included in a backup. A backup will include all property data from the following objects. And there's this pretty long list here. And so what we get at a most basic level is a zip file containing multiple CSV files, spreadsheet files, that can be downloaded and saved on your computer. Now you have a point-in-time representation of what your CRM data is like. And if for any reason you want to import those and revert all those property values back, you can do that. The thing that's interesting is that when you do an import, it updates existing records, right? So this download and import process would not revert back, undo the creation of new things. But what you can do once you've created a backup, and you can see my backup is now done, there's this download option, but there's also this restore option. This is the one I think may be tied to higher tiers. If I want to revert my CRM back to what it was on February 19th at 9:42 a.m. Eastern time, I can click this restore button and it will do that. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty cool. But it's really, really helpful if you remember to come in and create a backup occasionally, right? And so you as an admin may want to just get in a habit, set a calendar reminder, come in here, make a new backup every week, every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever the case may be. If you have an enterprise subscription, you can now schedule backups. This is a new thing. And you can say, I want it once a week or once every 2 weeks. And it'll tell you the next date of the backup. And you can turn that on and it'll just automatically create a new backup every week or every other week. So you always have that restore point you can get back to. You always have those files you can download if you need them. So this is, I mean, if we broaden the scope a little bit from troubleshooting to problem prevention, having a backup point is a pretty handy thing, especially if you're worried about some sort of catastrophic failure happening at some point, something going totally awry with your workflows or your imports or something. Having a backup is just a nice safety net to be able to undo those kinds of disasters. So that is it for the first section of this. Let's talk about reports and workflows. Now, honestly, reports I used to have a whole long section on troubleshooting reports. HubSpot has been getting a lot better at making reports less confusing. I will say, in general, the problems you're going to have with reports are user error. Someone set up a report to do one thing, but they selected the wrong data, and so it's showing something they didn't expect. There's not really a lot you can learn about HubSpot that will help you with this. I would highly recommend, if you are an admin type person and you struggle with interpreting reports, creating reports, understanding which data to select, what filters to use, take some time to get some education around reporting. There's lots of good education out there. HubSpot Academy has a reporting certification, but there's plenty of like data and analytics education you can get online for free through places like edX, MIT Open Courses, those YouTube. And I think as an admin type, just having a baseline knowledge of data and analytics and reporting visualizations and these sorts of things will be really valuable. Especially as we're moving into a world where you can ask AI to generate reports for you. You need some ability to look at the report and be like, yes, that was what I was asking for, or no, that was not what I was asking for. Otherwise, you may just build confusion upon confusion. One thing I do want to mention, just because I think it's so exciting, this is incredibly nerdy and niche, is there used to be a thing in HubSpot that was really confusing, and we've fixed it. And I just want to show that to you real quick. So if I come over to my reports page and I open up a report, we have added all kinds of things to this report viewer recently. We're going to give you insights from AI. There's no data in this particular report, so that won't be very interesting. We've added explanations about the report. There's all kinds of things you can see here that will help you interpret the report if you are not super strong at reporting, or even if you are. AI is pretty good at pulling out insights and trends that humans are not great at seeing. But one thing that I think is really worth knowing is all these reports used to be cached, and there used to be a lot of confusion around, wait a minute, this is, I just created some records and they're not showing up in my report. HubSpot is broken. Now, anytime you open a report, it's immediately refreshed. And if you are curious, you don't know how long you've been looking at the report, you don't know the last time the data was refreshed. If you look at the actions, it'll tell you this data was updated 2 minutes ago. And if you know for a fact that in the last 2 minutes something changed, you can click this refresh button and it'll recache and you'll get the report fresh. So if you are doing really like in the moment reporting, if things are changing really quickly and you want the report to show exactly like as of right now what the data looks like, just being aware that you can see how recently it was updated and refresh it if you need to is really helpful. That's the one thing I want to say about reports. Let's talk about workflows. My slide for workflows is kind of ugly because there are so many new troubleshooting things that have been added in the last year and a half, and I think it's really exciting. It used to be very hard to dig through and figure out what went wrong with a workflow, and now there are all kinds of tools that help you with this if you know where to find them. They're kind of sprinkled throughout the workflows tool, so let me point out as many as I can. I recognize we're getting close to time, and I would like to leave some little bit Q&A at the end. So first of all, if we open up, I think this is a good one. If we open up a workflow, yeah, this is a good one. Look, here's an arbitrarily complicated workflow that I've created. This, to me, is a lot of branches. I know some of you have built workflows that have far more branches than this, but I was pretty proud of this one. We've added this new performance history dropdown in the top right corner. And this is where all the treasures are, friends. This is where you're going to find all the things you want to know about how this workflow is doing. So first of all, we can go to enrollment history. And here we can see a list of contacts. This is contact based. Again, whatever type of record is being enrolled, we can see a list of those enrollments here. And we can click into one. And here we can see a few very cool things. First of all, notice that this contacts path is highlighted in green. It used to be if you wanted to know which branch someone went down, which endpoint they ended up at, you had to stare at the action logs and figure it out line by line. Now, just very visually, I can see, aha, this contact went here, right? And if you're like, why did this contact enroll in the first place? You can come to the enrollment criteria, see why this contact enrolled. Great. And we can look and see, met the criteria. That's why. And if it's more complicated criteria, if there's lots of ands and ors and stuff, it'll make it clear exactly which criteria they met and why. So that's really handy. The other thing you can do here is this view metrics button. So we just saw the path of one contact through this workflow. If you go to view metrics, you're going to see aggregated over a particular time range. And I think this is really handy and exciting. So look. We can come here and we can see 32.6% of contacts go down this branch, and 27.9 go down this one, and 39.5 go down this one. And then we can see ultimately 27.9 hit this endpoint, 72.1 hit this endpoint, 0% hit this endpoint, 0% hit this endpoint, 0% hit this endpoint, 0%, 0%. If you build a workflow and it's had a lot of enrollments and you have a lot of 0% endpoints, it could be something's wrong with the logic of your workflow, right? Unless it's like an error, like none met, right? Maybe we want 0% hitting this none met branch. That's great. That's success. But being able to look at this and really analyze your workflow and determine whether or not it's doing what you want it to, I think is really exciting. So that's view metrics. That is also available under here. The other thing you can do is troubleshoot enrollment. So we were able to look at a contact and say, why did this person enroll? But sometimes you have the opposite question, right? Sometimes you're like, I really thought this record was going to enroll, and it didn't, and I don't know why it didn't. So if we come in here and we grab a contact, we can look at a particular date range and say, I think somewhere in here this contact should have enrolled, and they didn't. And here we can see I actually attempted a bulk enrollment. I tried to manually enroll this one, but it will not enroll because re-enrollment is disabled. Oh, they've already been through this workflow once, right? And we can see they meet all the enrollment checks. Sometimes you will see like a mixture of checks and X's here. They didn't actually meet the enrollment criteria. Oh, right. I thought they did, but that property was not right. But here we see they meet all of them, but they were previously enrolled and re-enrollment was turned off, so that's why they didn't enroll. Again, this would be a really hard thing to figure out if you're just digging through the enrollment history table, right? Which I'll show you now. Because enrollment history, action logs, these things still exist. Sometimes they are helpful. If we come back over to here and we look at view details, we can see there are all these logs. There are action logs, and if we want to really dig into a particular action and see the details of exactly what happened, we can do that. We can see enrollment history. If you like it as tables, if you want to search and filter, you can do that. But this why did this enroll button is everywhere now, and you can look for each of these. Why did they enroll? So I think that's super cool. The other thing you can do is come to this needs review tab. So this is more proactive. I really like this because sometimes workflows are misbehaving and you don't know, right? They just run in the background. They're automatic. You don't really have a sense unless you happen to catch them doing something tricky. Here you can see all the workflows that HubSpot thinks maybe you should take some time to look at. And so if we open this one here, we can click review issues, and we get this review issues panel, which is pretty great. It was unable to update a property. That's interesting. So we can look through here. It'll give us some suggestions about how to address this issue. We can see a history of the problem. And then the thing I really like, if you're wrangling a lot of workflows, is you can mark it as fixed. You can say, I fixed the problem, or it wasn't really a problem, and I don't want to be bothered about this in the future. HubSpot, leave me alone. You can ask it to remind you to check it after a particular date or after a certain amount of time. So if you're like, I think I fixed it, but let's take a wait and see approach, you can do that. And if you want to just ignore it, you can ignore it. And so there's this view. Every HubSpot portal has it now. This needs review. You can see all the workflows that maybe need your attention, and you can look into them. The last thing I want to show you or explain to you is something about branching logic. So if I come in here to this workflow, I have this branch, and this is looking at a number property, which I've cleverly named, or this is the number of times contacted property. And here I say is less than 10 or is empty. Here I say is less than 50. Here I say is less than 100. And then this is none met. Now you will probably recognize that things that are less than 50 are also, or things that are less than 10 are also less than 50, and things that are less than 50 are also less than 100. The important thing to know about branching logic, because there isn't a way to do is between here, is that these are checked in order. So first, it's going to check if it's less than 10 or empty. So if my number is 72, right, a 72 times contacted, first HubSpot's going to check, is that less than 10 or empty? No. If the above criteria aren't met, then it'll check, is it less than 50? 72 is not less than 50. No. Go to the next branch. Then if the above criteria aren't met, it'll then check this one. Is 72 less than 100? Yes. So we're going to go down branch 3. So if there's a very particular range for a number or a date that you're trying to branch based on, you may get frustrated wondering, where's my in-between option? But the thinking here is that every record needs to go down some branch. If you have just a one branch that's like is between 10 and 15 and one branch that is between 35 and 40, then there are a lot that are not going to be able to go down those branches, right? And so you kind of need to do an exhaustive listing, and you need to think branches resolve in order. So those are the main things I want to talk about. I just want to mention briefly, if you have an enterprise account, there are sandboxes. You can copy your stuff from your production account into a sandbox. You can play with things there. It's a great way to prevent mistakes if you're building a really onerous workflow and you want to check what will happen before you turn it on. Also in enterprise, there's user impersonation. So if I hop back over to the users page real quick, you can log in as a user, and that's really handy. If someone is talking to you and they're like, man, when I log in, I see this or I don't see that. And you're like, I don't understand. Or especially if you've done a lot of custom view sorts of things for records and whatnot, you can come into users and teams, and you can, under the actions drop down, log in as the user. Anyway, you can do it, and then you'll see what they see. We have just 2 minutes left, and I apologize to not leave time for more Q&A. Dave, do we have questions?
We absolutely do. I'm going to start with the easy ones first, and
I think I answered a lot of them.
Jen was our wizard in the background. Andrew asked, is there a limit to the number of backups that you can have?
That's a good question. I no, not really. I don't know if after a certain amount of time they expire. That would be a good thing to check out. But I don't believe there's, if you have like 5 backups and you hit create backup, it'll say, sorry, you can't do anymore.
Okay. So it looks like enterprise can do a backup every 24 hours and all other levels can do weekly.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Renee asked, I actually just noticed that a support agent was created as a new user in my account. Once he closes my ticket, is he going to be automatically removed as a user?
That's a good question. It's been a long time since I was on the support team. I don't know the protocol there. I will tell you, when a HubSpot person who has access to log into your account logs into your account, there is a lot of limitations in what they can do. They can't actually really edit stuff. There are certain things they can't see. And so sometimes in order to do some deep troubleshooting or enable to do really hands-on problem solving, they need a user. I don't know that he would be able to create a user for himself. You should check and see who created that user.
And it might have been created by just emailing back and forth with the agent as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Cool. Thank you. Jenna asked, I have a contact with the record source of CRM UI. Is there a way to see what specific CRM is syncing to the portal? So
CRM UI is just like inside HubSpot, someone clicked a create contact button and they manually created them somewhere in the UI. I don't know whether if you go into record source detail 1, 2, 3, if it'll tell you like what screen. I sort of doubt it. But yeah, just some user manually created a record is what that means.
And I've seen that done also when people are like emailing, when a record is created by email as well as meeting links. It'll say as well.
Got it. Kyle, do you have a couple more minutes?
I do. I apologize. Great. Anyone who needs to leave right now, feel free to leave. Reach out to me on, let me see if I can grab my LinkedIn real quick. feel free to connect with me, DM me, say you saw me here and I didn't get to your question, and I am happy to answer your question for you.
Yes, we're also recording this, and we're going to be posting the link back to the recording. It's going to be an unpublished link or YouTube, so you'll be able to.
Kyle, one of the questions that I couldn't answer was, for the IP logins on the security settings.
Yeah.
Is there mobile app capability for IP logins on there as well?
That's a good question. I don't know. Let me lead with that. But my gut is that mobile app could potentially be a loophole to that. That would be something you definitely want to test. It would be pretty easy to test if you have like an IP and the mobile app. But I don't know offhand.
Got it. And I think Peter asks, I have a very strong email open rate, 33%, and a healthy click-through rate of 14%. He has a high bounce rate. He's trying to audit what's causing that bounce rate and how to mitigate it. Way to audit the bounce.
So like I told him, if he looks at the hard bounce reason, that should be able to tell him what that reason potentially is.
That's a contact property. You can just look and see.
Yep, using a program like Kickbox for email lists that are old, or purchase lists, or Zoom info, or anything like that is always recommended.
Excellent.
Yeah, if you're getting a lot of hard bounces, that's going to hurt your deliverability long term, and your open and click rate will go down. So yeah, if you can get like a Kickbox or something to check the emails addresses before you send. That to me sounds like a sourcing issue, wherever these email addresses are coming from.
Right. I do want to take just 1 minute to thank our co-hosts Dynamico for their sponsorship of the Twin Cities Hug, and to keep in touch and to subscribe to busyweb.com/events and to the respected hug in order to keep up to date. We have one more, and Jen, I'm going to let you handle this one because I am way out of my depth on Teresa's question. So,
Teresa and I have been going back and forth with it. So she has a merge issue where she has someone going through like an onboarding workflow, but then she's pointing them to like knowledge base articles and stuff. And is the knowledge base article helpful survey is merging records together, and it's taking them out of workflows.
Wow.
And that one, I pointed her in a couple directions, but I don't think I solved for it. I think it's an issue that support might have to handle.
Yeah, I would definitely call into support about that one. That sounds like a thorny technical issue that would require peeling away some layers of the onion in a way we can't really do in a webinar format.
Got it.
Well, great question.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Kyle. This has been absolutely tremendous. It's always, I had my mind blown a couple of times in here as I didn't know you could do the checking user login capabilities and accesses, and like, wow. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if you have additional questions, Kyle did put his contact info and how to reach him in the chat at the very bottom. You can connect with him on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Kyle Anthony Jepson. Perfect.
I think your new updates are great for next year's inbound.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure there will be more between now and September. So this deck will
Mr. Rogers videos. Thank you. Everybody give a nod to Mr. Rogers. That was
absolutely awesome. Kyle, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. Thanks everyone for being here.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.